Welcome to Spirits Are Talking, hosted by Lisa Silverman. Join us every Tuesday night for live on-air psychic medium readings, crystal energy healings, oracle card readings, chakra balancing, and so much more. Host Lisa Silverman is a natural-born intuitive, psychic, medium, and spiritual life coach, working professionally in the metaphysical healing arts since 2015. Lisa communicates with loved ones and pets that have passed on for emotional healing and answers. Not to mention, she is an established interior designer since 2009, focusing on feng shui, modern design, and house healings by creating a harmonious energy flow for her clients. Now, your host of Spirits Are Talking, Lisa Silverman.
Hi, everybody. Whew. Thank you for joining me tonight, wherever you are in the world. I so appreciate you being with me. And tonight's a special night because I have a guest on, and I love having guests on. And I'll bring her up in a minute after I just say hello. And thank you so much for your likes, follows, and subscribing and listening to the podcast. The numbers are growing every week, so I'm so grateful for you and for that. And I just want to say a few things before I bring my guest up. First of all, we're in Mercury retrograde and things have been really kind of wonky. Okay. So if you're feeling a little funky or wonky, then just know that this is part of the energy that's literally in the sky as a collective. So how do we navigate it? We can, Mercury retrograde, first of all, means slowing down, revisiting, taking things a little slower. If you've noticed, there's been a lack of communication or communication breakdowns, or your electronics not working properly. We're in the middle of it literally right now. So tonight my TV froze. I couldn't turn it on or off. I couldn't change the channel. It was interesting. Every person I pretty much called today didn't answer. I thought that was funny. They did get back to me, but they didn't answer. And then it's just kind of on and on. So, and then emails being sent. Make sure you check your emails and your wording, and and also be kind and just take things a little slower right now. And I say that as a reminder to myself. I have a lot going on, like all of us. And if we live within our 24 hours, then things won't get so crazy and hectic. So just remember to live in a little 24-hour bubble. And obviously you have to plan certain things. But if you stay in your 24-hour container, you'll feel less overwhelmed. And this energy is kind of overwhelming. I'm going to see all the comments. I can't always answer them. So we're going to talk. I'm going to introduce my guest. And I'm very excited. So my guest is Carla Blaha, and I saw her on TikTok, and I really liked her energy and her videos. I just thought I could relate to her, and we're similar but different. And so Carla is a fellow light worker, and she's based in the New York metro area. And together tonight, we're going to discuss all things spiritual and mediumship and evidential mediumship, and how it's practice. Like, what makes an evidential medium? We're going to talk. I have nothing scripted other than the introduction here. So it's all going to be spirit-led, okay? And we're going to pull a couple cards. Carla's into tarot. I'm going to into the oracle cards. So Carla is a third-generation intuitive psychic medium, and Carla follows in the footsteps of her mother and grandmother, having had her first experience at the age of 4. Carla now works as a full-time evidential medium, teacher, and intuitive coach. Also a Reiki master, Carla is certified at angel card readings, chakra balancing, manifesting, and meditation. We're very similar. Carla works with individuals all over the world, and you can get a hold of her. All her information, and she'll say it out here, is in the show notes that's listed in the podcast. So having said nothing else except for welcome, Carla. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the show, everybody. It's going to be interesting.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining me. I had to look at the comments. I'm sorry. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Carla, thank you so much. Like I said, I saw you on YouTube, and I was like, it was late at night, real late at night. I'm like, what is she doing up when she's in New York? And I really liked your energy, and I reached out to you, right?
Yep.
And said, let's talk. Let's have a conversation about what you do, how we are both mediums, but we do things similar and different. And I wanted to just talk about what is an evidential medium and just tell us a little bit about yourself. And welcome to Spirits Are Talking.
Thank you. Well, I'm really happy to be here. As you said, I work as a full-time evidential medium. An evidential medium, as you know, is a medium that has to produce evidence. As I always say, no blanket, I love yous, I miss you. I know you've had a tough time. I always say I have to come up with information you cannot guess, Google, or surmise. Because the smallest things can be the biggest things. So it might be a small scar in someone's cheekbone, but that's huge.
Yeah.
So that's
or
what
the sapphire ring that was left to them.
Right. So yeah, I'm healed when my clients are healed. I love my job. I don't feel like I'm working.
I agree completely. Right? Isn't it interesting? So it's like, being a medium, like we both are evidential mediums, we're very sensitive. So how do you manage the sensitivity of others? Like you said, you heal when your clients heal. I feel the same way, but how do you navigate that?
In actual readings, I'm so in the now that I feel very little. I'm really just a channel. So I have to admit, in readings, one time someone actually was not happy because they thought I was not emotional enough. I think they wanted me to hug them and be very friendly to them. And I said, that's not my job. That makes me human. If I'm hugging you for your loss, I can't do that. So in work, I'm okay. In real life, I actually have to flip a switch. Even on a supermarket line, I can feel people around me. I just, good, bad, or indifferent, you feel the energies. And I did that as a child. That I find harder.
Exactly. Navigating, I call it navigating whose energy's whose, right? And what's yours, keeping yours closer, right? And so it's interesting that you don't get emotional because I do actually. When they're crying, I cry because sometimes their emotions or their words are so intense that I feel so much that I just respond the way they're responding in a message. And the same with joy and happiness and love and everything, it's kind of all over the gamut. So it's interesting that you flip the switch. And what does that mean? Do you pull your energy in? Do you shield yourself?
I go right into the now. I realized that I don't even know. I was probably doing platform work for about 6 months, and I realized there's no past and there's no future for me when I work. I'm right in that moment. And when I come out of that moment, I tend to lose connection. So that's why actually when I train people, I train them to read initially on the phone, because looking at someone, you can be persuaded by how they're dressed, their emotions, their face expressions. You can take off of that. And if you're not skilled or experienced, I'll say, you read off of that. So I like to be a blank slate as much as I can.
I love that. I've done, and I haven't done it a lot lately, but I've done it and I want to do more. I don't know why I'm being called to ask you this, but do you read jewelry or items?
That's funny you say that. I was just talking to someone about that. No, years ago because I'm a student at heart, I'll always train and study myself. We were doing psychometry. And that was one of the things. And I got something about where the store was, some irrelevant thing, meaning it was a hit, but it wasn't about the person. And I realized, even when I used to do Reiki healing, I didn't touch somebody. Even though I was trained to touch them lightly, it was easier for me to be about a half an inch off their body. I don't do well touching things. I really have to be pulled back. Do you do that? You like that? You can do that?
I can do that. I don't do that, but I've done it many times. And it's been a while where I've held bracelets. And it was even one of my friends, and I didn't know the history of the bracelet or anything. I just admired the bracelet. And then I held the bracelet, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this energy, because I was testing myself. This is a long time ago. And so I'm like, this energy feels like an ant. But it was a gift, like an aunt gave it to her or her sister. And so that's what happened. The sister, the two aunts one sister gave it to the other sister, then the aunt gave it to the niece. So, and then
people love that.
Excuse me?
A lot of people love that. Years and years ago, I used to read, when I started out, I would do the fairs and things like that. And there was a reader at the fair, I remember one of the fairs I did, who only did psychometry. So you couldn't even sit with her unless you brought something.
Right.
And I was always amazed by that because I'm like, I wasn't interested in doing it, but I thought it was an interesting skill set. And I liked watching her from a distance.
Yeah, it is an interesting skill set, and I should probably try that more. I'm going to practice that a little bit because it's fun, even when you're out, it's just fun.
If you're good at it, why not exercise it? Sure.
Yeah, when you can tap into energy,
Mhm.
like you and I can, then it's just like a muscle, right? It's just another avenue to connect. I mean, it was so funny. I had a client in person not that long ago, and she brought a bag, and it was like a bakery bag and some stuff in it. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. But you couldn't see through the bag or anything. And I thought, oh my God, I hope it's not a pastry because I can't have any gluten whatsoever. I really hope it's not a gift for me. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
Didn't offer it to me, which was great. I was like, oh, thank goodness. But in the reading, and I was channeling her mom and her grandmother, I'm like, your grandma's telling me that you brought the Bibles. Would that make sense? And she said, yeah. She opened up the bag and there was 3 Bibles in the bag.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Grandma, great grandma. That
That's
was
very
wild.
cool.
So that's how the evidential medium stuff, I didn't go peek in the bag,
No, of course not.
So anyway, so I thought what we're gonna do is just have a conversation, and I'd love to know, and I'll share mine. I'd love to hear, because there's so many, one of your mind-blowing sessions, one of your favorites.
Oh, I got to think. So many of them. There's so many. You got to give me a moment to think. You want to go first?
There's so many, but
I got one. I got it.
do it.
I do a whole thing on TikTok actually called Spirit Says the Funniest Things. So you think I would call them. I haven't done this one though. Years ago, and it was years ago. I remember I was in Long Island, New York during a group. I remember that much. Like Long Island, it sneaks out of me. Sorry, even though I'm not from there.
Long Island.
Make me get tough now. Then it'll start coming out. I was talking to a family. It was a family group, and I said the person in spirit was a dad. Showed me their wake, and he showed me sand, and I was like, I'm not going to do the beach thing because he may have even lived in Florida, but this was Long Island. And then he showed me sand, and he started putting it in his jacket pockets, and I was like, I'm just going to offer it. I said, your father's showing me his wake, and I know it was here. It wasn't in Florida. But why is there sand in his pockets? They had taken beach sand from where he lived and placed it in his jacket pockets in his coffin.
I love it. I love it.
You can't make it up. And that's the thing I tell people, you can't make that up. Neither one of my parents had that when they passed. I mean, it's not
you can't make a lot of stuff up. Like I go, your grandma was an amazing baker. I see all these chocolate chip cookies. I'm like, oh my God, like amazing. I could smell it, taste it, whatever. My grandmas weren't amazing bakers whatsoever,
Right. I know people would say, oh, but everybody's grandmother baked. Well, no, they didn't. My mother didn't do that. So my kids wouldn't say that.
No.
I remember once I talked about bunions and somebody said, well, everybody has bunions. I said, neither one of my parents had bunions. I don't have bunions. I get it. And it was bunion surgery, which the mother had had. So I get it if it doesn't match. But when it does,
it's like, boom.
It just is.
So one of mine, okay, so I have 2 stories that I have to share because they're both pretty mind-blowing. And one was I got a client through someone, and he was a police officer, and he was very skeptic, and he's written the book Tyson's Gift. His name's Brandon Wainwright, and he's lovely. So he came for a session, and he was very skeptical. He lost his dog, Tyson, and he was really grieving this dog. And it was a soulmate and everything. And so I understood that because I've lost dogs. I know how deep that connection is and whatever. So meantime, before the dog, Tyson came through, his grandmother, uncle, and aunt came through. Okay. And he was blown away. We found out that his uncle was really gay, and they knew it, and it just all came out, all this evidence. But then Tyson comes through. He saved the best for last. Tyson came through, and he was telling me that his back leg hurt. Would that make sense? His back left leg. And he's like, yeah. And I said, he kind of had a limp. And he said, yeah. And then we were talking. He was just so blown away. Here's a police officer, and I hope he listens to this because he turned me on to Todd, actually. And he's written the book Tyson's Gift, and I'm in a couple chapters of the book, which is really lovely. But anyway, Brandon says to me, well, what about a tattoo? And boom. Tyson says to me, oh, You mean the tattoo of my paw print on his arm? And he lifts up his shirt and there's the paw print. Boom, right there.
Yep.
Can't
Yeah,
make it.
you can't.
So that was one. That was one because it's out in the world too, so some people can look it up if they want to read this beautiful book that Brandon wrote called Tyson's Gift. It's so lovely. And being a skeptic, and then now he's very into spirituality. And I said during the session, you're going to do Reiki. And now he's a Reiki master and all this stuff, he's darling. Tyson's Gift, Brandon. I adore him. So that was one thing. Another time, to make a long story short, I was at the doctor's office. I could feel some loved ones around someone that was 3 people that had passed. And this woman said, oh, it's the receptionist. So I'm like, interesting. I connected with her boyfriend. She was crying. She was a little freaked out. A lot of evidence happened. He told me that he died in the hospital when she went to the meter to put money in the meter. Would that make sense? And she said, yeah. I said, he wanted that. He wanted that time so you didn't see him pass because it was like 5 minutes. His name was Jose. He just came through right now to thank me because it was really beautiful. Well, she was freaked out because then I said, it's your sister and father. Would that make sense? Yes. Her and her mom came for a session with me. To make a long story short, I channeled the sister. She told me that she was sick half of her life. I don't know if I shared this story with you or not. And she was sick half of her life, and she had this really bad cough, and I'm hacking. And then she gets better. So she was like 21, and then she was better for 4 or 5 years, and then she passed. And they said, yes. She spent most of her life in the hospital, and she was apologizing to her sister for taking so much family time away, blah, 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 blah. I said, why did she get better and then pass? And they said she had a lung transplant. And immediately I get this energy comes flying in the room and says, woohoo, I'm the donor. I'm like, okay, hold on. It shows again. So I said, hold on. I'm like, wow, she had a lung transplant. So she did really well for 4.5 years, and then she passed. So I said to this other energy, young kid, actually, hold on. I said to them, yes or no, that's it. Don't give me anything else. Do you know who the donor was? Yes or no? Do you know the age, gender? Yes or no? Yes. Do you know how the donor died? Yes. Do you know where the donor died? Yes. So I got all the yeses, and I'm listening to him because he's going, woohoo, I'm the donor. I'm so proud of my parents. He died in a car accident in a Mustang with a friend instantly in Los Angeles, and he was a boy. He was 16. It was tragic, but he was so proud that he gave all his body parts so that he could live on for other people. And whoa, that was my most mind-blowing. Channeling the donor.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that I said, she's also saying that she changed taste buds, that she became like she liked food she didn't like.
Oh, yeah.
And she also ran, and he was a runner. He was only 16, but he was also a surfer and a blondie. And he was so happy on the other side with his body left here to share with others. That was pretty wild.
No, that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's
a great story.
That's how powerful spirit is, right?
Honestly, yeah, it's mind-blowing. What I find fascinating is that what you could tell one sitter versus what you tell another. So you may offer information like that, which is mind-blowing, or even something less mind-blowing, but very validating. And they're so touched and so healed. And it's sad to me when someone else is not. I've had to learn in my mediumship over the years that I do my job and then that's it. Whether how they receive it is really up to them. But right, because you could do something like that, and that's mind-blowing. And there could be someone with a wall up and their arms could be crossed and they could be like, and give you the face
they
wheel.
Were falling. Of course, they were crying.
But I'm saying that it's so glad that they were healed, because some people, it makes me sad that they're not able to heal from what they hear, even if it's that profound.
I know, that's interesting. Yeah.
Or less profound, but that's
pretty profound. I mean, the donor. But what was interesting is that they never met the parents of this young boy. They didn't want to. The donor's parents did not want to meet anyone, but they knew everything about him. Which was so.
That's a great story.
And that was a long time ago that happened. The surgery happened. I mean, the reading was maybe 5 years ago or so, maybe 4. And the accident and incident, the lung transplant and everything was probably 10 years before that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
no time in the spirit world, right? There's just no time. People say, oh, no, but they died years ago. I'm like, that doesn't matter whether it's yesterday.
Exactly.
Actually, I do have a funny story. And it happened, I was doing a group. It was a small group, maybe 30, 35 people, but in a public venue. And I went up, and I might have shared this with you. I can't remember. I went up to a woman and I started describing someone, and she said, that's my aunt, but she's alive. I said, all right, so I must be getting, information from another person validating, because it was validatable. And then I moved on. I went to the back of the group, and out of my periphery, within a few minutes, I could see her on the cell phone. And since it was a small group of like 35 people on cell phones doing stuff I don't really like, no cell phone use. But I was watching her almost become more pale and began to distract me. So I got to the front, and her meek hand went up. This is maybe 10 minutes later. And she said, my sister texted me, my aunt died 30 minutes ago. Wow. And that was in front of everyone. And that was, I mean, I have the chills right now because that was shocking. She didn't even know. So then I could go back. So people ask me, do you wait? Do you have to wait a certain length of time? I don't know what your philosophy is on this to bring spirit through. For me, technically, that's happened. And I brought through people that people didn't know died, other people. Mm-hmm. But my rule is the physical, mental, and emotional state of the sitter. I might have a rule if they're not ready or it won't heal them. But I don't need the spirit, the person's spirit to be passed for 6 months or a year. I don't have any of that. I can, if I'm going to connect, it doesn't mean I will, but if I will, time doesn't matter for me.
Same here. Some people say, don't try to call them in within, right, unless it's been 30 days or whatever. And I've had them die the night before as well.
Exactly.
I had my girlfriend's mom come to me, and I didn't even know she was ill. And she came to me and she said, please watch my Lori, please watch my Lori. And I knew her forever. And I said, of course I'm going to watch her. Are you kidding me? And the next day I called and I said, and I said, your mom came through and said, please watch my Lori. Is everything okay? And she said, my mom passed away the night before last.
Yeah.
It's how it is.
It is how it is. It's very cool. It's just
very cool. Given that mediumship is life calling as well as a job, do you ever feel the need to take a break? Good question. Do you ever feel the need to take a break?
Not often, but I tend to drain my energy. I don't take as good care of myself as I should, or I teach my students to do. I don't. I tend to not take much of a break. In fact, I used to work 7 days a week, and I forced myself. It was right before COVID is when I decided I'm taking 1 day off a week on the weekend. And then COVID hit. I was like, I shouldn't have done that for those months. It was January of that year. So
COVID was hard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was. Well, I'll tell you, people really needed people like us during that time. And I had a rule at the time with spirit. I also have a rule. I don't offer John, Mary, Ann, or Anthony, any of those names. I could get the people, but around here, everybody has that name. So when COVID was going on, I did not allow spirit to tell me they died of COVID. They had to give me other validations. That was like bringing up the name John, at least around here. If I said, do you have someone that passed from COVID? Everybody did. So I didn't allow spirit to bring that through. Not everybody. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it was very common, and I didn't allow it.
So many people passed in that time.
Yeah.
I've channeled a lot of people that died of COVID after, a year after, 2 years after, a lot. And I've been also channeling a lot of accidental OD from a ton from
it being tainted, right?
Yeah. Fentanyl.
Have you seen that increase for the past 13 and a half years? I have watched that increase like this in my career. Unbelievably sad.
There's a problem. Yeah. Unbelievably sad. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I don't know if you can see the comments.
I cannot.
But they're there. And so we're so grateful that you're here. I'm going to pull a card.
Maybe I should do this. I bet you I can.
If you're on TikTok.
Oh, wait. Okay. I had the wrong button.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Facebook Live Spiritual Talking or YouTube, and the links in the bios. But anyway, I wanted to pull a card as a collective, and then we can keep talking. We can see who wants to come through, if anybody. But we can keep having this conversation. I want to talk before I pull a card and invite everyone in. Carla is amazing, truly gifted and an amazing soul. Yep, I love it. From Danielle. So I love it. So back to you. You were 3 or 4 years old when you started feeling. So can you talk about that for a minute?
I only know that because people have been like, how do you know? Only because it was a story that my parents would talk about. And, I had parents that were older. So my father was pretty much the age, like he was almost 50 when I was born. It was a second marriage. So, it was children are seen and not heard, that kind of a thing. And they would talk about this story because they had taken me to an inn in Connecticut, which is very out of my parents, in retrospect, character to take a 4-year-old to an inn for brunch. It just didn't happen. But I do vaguely remember it. And apparently when I got into the inn, I started running around and misbehaving, which as an only child, I really wasn't a misbehavior. And I started commenting on how the chimney was in the wrong place or the doors were in the wrong place and they've changed everything. And I had a bit of an anxiety attack at 4. The manager, my parents were nothing but embarrassed and ready to go home. And the manager of the inn pulled my parents aside and said, I don't understand how she would know this. I remodeled this whole place, decades ago. And she's right. That was where the chimney was. So apparently my mother then started saying things like, she's just like my mother. And things at 8 years old, another experience happened. So I would hear growing up, you're just like your grandmother. And then it would stop there, and that would be it.
Interesting. So for me, I always knew that I could speak to my loved ones, and I don't know how, but I always knew, okay, as a young girl, that there was more to life than right now. And I was raised in a Jewish home. I've said this before, very reformed. And my mom was extremely progressive and woo-woo. And both of my parents were also older when I was born. My dad was 40 when I was born, and my mom was 38. And I have an older sibling, and there's just 2 of us. So what happened to me is when I was 8 years old, my great grandmother passed away, who I absolutely adored, on my mom's grandmother. And she was very spiritual, very lovely. And on the same weekend, my dad's father passed away. I've shared this before. And so it was like a what the heck moment, obviously, in our family. Both in San Francisco, it was a huge loss, the whole big funeral for my grandpa, and then nothing really for my great grandmother that I remember going to or having any closure. And so she started coming to me with the S swoosh when I was 8 years old and would always communicate with me. And then I would feel her like 6, 8 times a year, it depended. And I'm not going to take too much time because I've said this before. But then 25 years later, I had a baby, and I knew I was always going to have a girl, and wanted to name her Sophie, and I did share this with you. And then I had a baby and named her Selena, and it turned out that my great-grandmother Sophie's last name was Celine, which I didn't know that until we decided to name her that. And then she was my great-grandmother reincarnated and had all this recall. And I've never felt that S swoosh again.
Yeah. That's a really beautiful story.
Thank you. And so what the interesting thing about mediumship and the gifts that we've had is, we have many lifetimes. I'm sure you believe that too. If you're a medium, obviously we travel in packs. Do you agree with that? Or
I do. I think there's soul groups that we do. The good, bad, and the ugly, but yes.
Yes, for our soul lessons, right? And so, not to gloss over, but my daughter is definitely my great-grandmother in so many ways, and would have all the recall of me being a little girl and pushing me up the hills of San Francisco and saying, Mommy, when you were little, you didn't eat tomatoes. Mommy, when you were little, you didn't eat broccoli. I'm like, oh my gosh, how did you know? And she would and she looks like her, very similar. And thank goodness, because my mom passed when my baby was only 16 months old, that when she was 6 weeks old, my mom recognized Mama Sophie in the and my beautiful Selena sleeping. So that's like a full circle moment and such a huge healing that my mom witnessed it with me. You know what I mean?
That's great.
Yeah.
So comforting. It's so warm. It's lovely.
Thank you. And so what happens is we have these experiences with people, and good, bad, ugly, and indifferent, like you said, and they're here to teach us lessons, and they're hard.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure. Absolutely. I don't feel, at least it's been my experience, I've not met many mediums that had it easy. I just haven't. Right. I think you come to this lifetime with experience and from the hard knock past life, and you're still working through it. That's my experience. I'm sure there's mediums who have just living on cloud nine all the time, but most of the people I've met, we've had a pretty rough go.
Yeah, we have. I agree. Tough, challenging people navigating. I think a lot of it is navigating what's energy is yours and what's not too, you know, taking on other people's stuff perhaps, right?
Yeah, you do have to be careful to not be a sponge, physical, mental, or emotional. But
excuse me. Yeah. So what do you do to clear that for yourself?
Again, not as much as I should. Besides your basic saging and I'm big in frankincense and things like that. I've actually taken upon physical dry brushing and things like, believe it or not, cold showers to shift my energy. That's something new I've taken on.
That's great.
You know, the visualizations and all that, and I think those are extremely powerful. I also get energy healings and things like that. But I've recently picked more of that up. I did in the beginning of my career. Then I slacked off because I thought I do this all the time. I'm fine. And it takes a toll. And I think many people in our line of work are also physically not well. And we need to take care of ourselves.
Definitely. I salt scrub. I meditate every day. If I don't meditate every day, I'm so out of whack. I have to meditate every day. I have to wear crystals.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
I'm wearing them all the time. You won't see me in a video without a giant crystal on. Yep. Oh, I know. I've got them all over. They're all near me right now. I've got them all.
Same here. Gotta have them. Right?
Absolutely.
And so it's because we're so sensitive, you know? And it's like people will throw energy unconsciously. And when you're a medium and you're sensitive, you pick up on it.
Yeah.
So it's up to us. So, you know, what's great for detoxing is salt baths. I know you know this probably, Epsom salts, essential oils I put in there, and just soak. I do salt scrubs.
Magnesium too is what I've been doing.
Magnesium, how do you do that?
That's a new thing. In fact, I got my bottles here. I'm going to start making magnesium spray. You can use magnesium like you do Epsom salts, but you can also make your own sprays. I just started this.
Okay, great. Because I take magnesium. Cala.
Tried that. Doesn't seem to like me too much. So that's why I'm doing that.
On the belly. I know.
I see that someone talked about the dry brushing in the comments. Dry brushing clears your lymph nodes of toxin. Yeah, I do that whole lymph. I left the lymph node thing. You should see me, what I look like in the bathroom with all the lymph nodes, and 100% it does.
That's great, Gina. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the thing I do now.
Know me my entire life.
Excuse me?
Who said that? Her name's Tempo.
Oh, okay.
Tempo. Has known me since I was 5.
No way.
My lifelong best, 4 years old, one of my lifelong best friends. And now, and you know, always knew I was woo. Would you make a comment, Tempo? I don't want to call you out about that. Huh?
You already did call her out. Let's see.
Tina. So she knew me as always kind of woo-woo. She wasn't surprised when I came out of the spiritual closet as a medium, you know? So let's pull a card for everyone. Life and all friends. Yep. And I'm going to pull a card. We're in Mercury retrograde, like I said before. And do you notice the change?
You know what? Here's the funny thing. I don't notice for me, I was born in a retrograde, and I don't tend to be that affected by retrogrades.
Good for you.
Many other things. No, but I've gotten off the hook easy here. But no, I don't.
I can do that. Say that, I mean.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm not saying stuff doesn't happen, because it does.
Of course.
Not hellacious like some people experience.
Yeah, I've had hellacious, but I'm good. I'm just need to stay in that 24-hour bubble.
I love that 24-hour. I love that. I heard you say that in the beginning, and I thought that was fantastic. I'm going to have to use that one. I love that.
Okay,
I
good.
give you credit for it, but I may video that. That's really good.
Yeah, it's true. Staying in your 24 hours keeps you contained because, obviously being in the moment, that's all we have. But when you start thinking about way outside, like, what do I need to take care of now? And just get back to that. Because if you're like me and you have ADD or all over the place sometimes, being a medium, we're so sensitive. I have to remind myself, like, stay in. Okay, so I'm going to pull a card from the map, or Colette Baron Reed's deck. Take a temperature, and then you're going to pull a tarot card, right?
Yeah, mine's a modified tarot. It's not the traditional Rider-Waite. I don't read that, but it is a tarot deck.
Okay, great. So we'll see how they compare.
Okay.
The guidebook too, because we'll see what, as a collective, whoever's here. Thank you so much for joining us. Whenever this lands for you, it'll be the right time. What do we need to know for our highest good as a collective going through this Mercury retrograde? Flying. I love it. Flying. What's your card?
My card is actually a chakra card. I can pull another one. It's a song just for balance, which is not shocking considering it's Mercury. I'm sorry about the glare. Mercury retrograde.
Is that the solar plexus?
It is.
Bentley agrees.
Which is, very important now. I'm really all about clearing, cleansing, and balancing them, because when these are out of whack, which happens a lot, I believe you are out of whack. And I always tell people, you could be in a supermarket and it go out of whack. It doesn't have to be a traumatic event.
Exactly.
They should be balanced.
I have to balance my chakras, and I do chakra healing and balancing Reiki too. So I believe that. And it's also, if I'm not wrong, about taking your power back. It's a personal power center.
It is. It's a balance of personal power and kind of knowing when to throw the power out and retract it. Because in retracting your power, it's almost like a fishing line. It doesn't mean you're being weak. It's actually kind of tactical and balanced. So know when to push it out and to bring it back and get that balance.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Okay, so this card represents flying. You have the power to see things from a higher perspective. If you're a bird flying high in the air, what would you see? When you soar above life's challenges and opportunities, a new perspective becomes available. Today, you have invisible wings that allow you to swiftly bring your circumstances into alignment with your highest purpose. This is a sign that your waiting is over and all your hard work is paid off, and all the things you hope for are no longer beyond your scope. You have the ability to reach for the stars and find one with your name on it. Spread your wings and soar. The angels are waiting for you. Wow.
I will take that one. So I know everyone else will like it. I'm going to take it too.
I'm taking it too.
Yes.
I'm taking it too. So Danielle's saying, I would love to know if there are workshops coming up to explore the ability to discover and channel our own abilities. I love that.
I'm going to be I have to talk to the person who owns the establishment, but I'm going to be, in the New York metropolitan area, I'm going to be teaching, I believe in the fall, intuition workshop.
Great. I'm going to be.
So yes.
Whack all day, ER trip and balance. Sorry about the ER trip. I hope you're okay. I hope you're okay. So anyway, should we pull another card?
Sure.
I want you to see it up. I'll pull one from. We have the flying. We know that all our hard work is paying off. We don't have to fret. We got balance.
The key is balance.
And
I think that people get intimidated when they hear they have to be balanced, because I feel sometimes when we hear that, we think that means we have to be perfect, stable all the time. It really is learning to work with the ebb and flow of your physical, mental, and emotional energy and keeping yourself balanced, but not like this all the time. That's not realistic.
No, It goes like this some days.
Yeah. And in chaos, there's actually order, to believe it or not, sometimes. So,
Of course.
yeah, I always tell people, don't be so hard on yourself that you have to be perfect and balanced all the time. We're not all, on a mountaintop oming in a monastery. We have to live with some tough stuff.
Yeah. And it's how do we navigate it with less toughness or harsh and with more ease and grace?
Absolutely.
And because life isn't always easy. Hi, Goldie.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else do we need to know regarding the flying and the balance card for all of us? Because this is good. This is great. We're going to see if anybody comes in here. I don't know. I'm not feeling it, but I'm loving this energy exchange with Carla. Okay, deep knowing. The deep knowing is about knowing what's in your bones, The deep knowing is card number 43, which equals 7. The deep knowing is knowing that everything's going to be okay. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I like to read part of it because the sentence, I know what they all mean, but not everyone else does. So the one sentence will hit, your heart more. But the deep knowing, and I'm going to show you the card too, is knowing that everything's going to be okay. And that even if you're out of balance, everything's going to be okay. It's your intuition actually speaking to you. Is your deep knowing, and that also happens in the third chakra too.
There is a knowing. Yeah. In fact, I would say I don't, but most people, that's where their knowing is, in the third chakra.
Yeah.
That's knowing. Mine weirdly is up here.
Mine.
It's up here. And I remember I fought that for so long. And then there was a woman, Trudy Griswold. She wrote Angels Speak with an E at the end. And I told her, and she said, stop fighting this, Carla.
Yeah.
This is here. But you're right. Most people, it is in the third chakra. You're right.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people, it's the gut feeling, the intuition. It's in your gut, comes out of the fifth to speak, right? Yeah. We also I feel so much in my heart. It's too much. That's why I have that black obsidian that I hold at my heart sometimes. But this is about your intuition, listening to the oracle within. And it's also about hypersensitive and empathy overload and hypersensitivity. And so intuition is the faculty that allows you to enter into the dialogue with source. The consciousness that you're a part of, it cannot see with the naked eye. That's what you're in the deep knowing. And sometimes you're taught to ignore it. This is a natural capacity to navigate life's journey, is to listen to that intuition and deep knowing. Know that you have the ability to read between the lines and find the truth that's what's missing in a story that's told. I know you can read between the lines, right? The deep knowing allows you to open the door to wisdom far greater than what's available and the limitations of the human experience.
That's profoundly true.
You're given information that may make no sense whatsoever to the logical mind or the five senses, which is 100% correct and true. The trick is to listen and then act accordingly. Ask, and you will receive the answers from unusual sources. Just like when you were saying about the sand in the gentleman's pocket, right? And listening to your intuition. I mean, of course, you got to give the message, however crazy, however it makes sense or doesn't make sense. The deep knowing had to come out, right?
And the weirder it is usually the most accurate, right? I mean, the most strange, bizarre things are the best hits. That's what I think.
Me too.
It's true. The crazier it is, the more likely it is validating.
I know.
You hit a really good point, which is we are taught to not listen to our instinct.
I know.
Because when we're little, it's all logic, and you have to teach kids not to cross the street without looking and all that, stuff that's real. But it's almost pushed away like, oh, that's nonsense is the word I would have heard. It's nonsense. And when I tell my students, how often when you really have listened to your gut, have you been wrong? And with people, it's just, if we could just, I wrote a book called Get Your Vibe Back because I think we lost that.
That's
and
right.
We have to get it back because it's so tangible, but we tend to think, oh no, what's that based on? We tend to do the pros and cons in our head. So that's 100% true.
Yeah. And and I love that. And I want you to talk about your book too. I haven't read your book yet, but I will. Um, for me, um, and my mom was difficult, really difficult. But the biggest gift she ever gave me was my spiritual sense of self, which is huge for me, obviously. And you're right about being taught not to listen. But what she told me was your intuition's always right for you.
Yep.
Always right for you. And it's true. There's this story, I remember Oprah sharing it on one of her shows about, the elevator door opens and there's two creepy guys in it. What do? Walk in and be nice, or listen to your intuition and say, no, I'm not going in there, and screw what they have to think. Okay.
Yep.
So a lot of nice people don't listen to their intuition to make the other people feel comfortable.
Yes.
And no more anyone, do not do that.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Like, hell no. If they're creepy people in the elevator, I don't care who they are.
Yeah, don't get in.
Don't get in and say goodbye. I'm not getting in. That's it.
Yeah, that's a great one, because I can think back, and even when I was younger, on things that I did, though my vibes were strong, I would still go against them sometimes just for things like that. I wouldn't now, but younger, we feel funny.
Oh, yeah, we all did.
Yeah, we all did.
I'm sure, but not anymore.
No. Yeah, don't walk down the street if you don't have a good feeling.
Right.
When I tell my family I'm having a bad vibe, as much as they'll roll their eyes, they'll be like, all right, we should listen to mom. Mom said this,
Same with my friends and my family. Definitely. I mean, because it's a good vibe too. Let's go this way. Let's get the good vibes,
That's true. It's true, because we're looking at it in the negative always. Oh, that's not a good place to go. How about, well, this is the good place to go.
How about this slot machine and then win $4,000? That's happened to me a few times. Or whatever. Like, this is a great story, real quick, about my mom. My mom was very woo-woo. I had past life regressions when I was 16, 20 people out of the house, by Helen Wambach, who was the leader of past life regressions. And so when it was my daughter was having a bat mitzvah, I was on, this is a great story, I can't make this up either, on the phone to my girlfriend with my daughter in the car, and we're driving towards San Francisco. I'm telling my girlfriend what I'm kind of thinking about, kind of the party dress, but I'm not really sure. And my mom was a really great shopper, on sale or not, but a great shopper. Okay. So I'm explaining this dress to my girlfriend. I have no idea. It's going to be gunmetal, kind of a maybe bubble cocktail dress, for the weekend. This is throwing it back a while, over 10 years ago now. So anyway, my daughter's like, that sounds great, Mom. So we go to Bloomingdale's, and we go down the escalator. Bentley, not right now. Sorry, my dog. We go down the escalator, and we get to the dresses, and there's a huge rack, and it's spread wide open with one dress right in the middle, just what I described to my girlfriend, in my size and everything. Okay, wow. 10 minutes before. My girlfriend's my witness, and my daughter's my witness. Okay, sure. So I try the dress on. Fits fantastic. I need a couple little things, not much, right? Not only is it gorgeous, and some designer, I can't even remember, but it's on sale. Okay, of course. And so anyway, we get Selena's, I'm looking at the dress, and she's like, oh my God, that's so great. That's great. Okay, let's get it. We'll ring it up. I'm going to get it no matter what it is. The price came up $18.
That's crazy.
$18. Okay. And she's like, how could this be? I'm like, I have no idea. How could in Judaism, 18 is a high number, which is a lucky, spiritual number. What? My lunch was $25 that we went to.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay. Before that. I mean, it was crazy. So that's how my mom will help me. And I mentioned to you, I'm an interior designer. My mom helps me a lot in the interior design world. But the fact that I got such a deal, it was like a $450 dress for $18.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Right when we got down the escalator, it was just opened on the right, not going around the corner. It was just boom, right there.
Yeah. I would ask everyone who's listening to take some time to even note in their lives, when have you done that and just taken the vibe and made the right turn or go down the escalator or done this? What has it brought you? Have you bumped into someone that you hadn't seen in years? You just can't make some of these stories up. They're just so amazing.
Right? They're so amazing. Yeah. It's like, where's your aha moments with your loved ones? We all
Right.
have them.
They have them. Yes, people have them. And you don't, often people, I'm sure you get this all the time. You don't have to be a medium to connect to your loved ones.
No.
Now, I know that sounds kind of cliche because everybody says that, and it is different. So granted, if I don't know you and I'm reading you and I'm bringing through your loved one, you're going to take that more seriously than if you get a sign, because you'll think, I could be second guessing this. So if I get a sign from my mom, okay. But if someone who doesn't know me brings my mother through, I'm more impressed. So, excuse me, I understand why people think they need mediums, because we're objective and we don't know you. So I get it. But I don't want people to sell themselves short in thinking that their loved ones cannot tap them on the shoulder and give them not typical signs, crazy signs. I tell my clients and students, ask your loved ones for the weirdest thing, not a flower or a butterfly or this or that. Ask for something
Billboards.
crazy.
Billboard sign.
Yeah, something crazy. And they usually get it. It may come in a different form. Like if you're asking for a cigar, I just made that up. Someone may not hand you a cigar. You may see a billboard, or someone's pet may be named Cigar. You don't know,
Exactly.
but it does happen.
And oftentimes, like in my mediumship sessions, I've had these really beautiful nuances that loved ones, this happened recently, where the husband was not always that demonstrative, but was loving and kind and everything. But he said, tell her that I'm blowing on her neck and on the side of her face. And I'm like, okay, like a breeze. And I go, is that you? And he said, yeah. So I said that, and she started crying. She goes, yes, I've been feeling that all the time. The soft breeze, just a little tickle in her hair and in her neck. That's it.
That's it.
So it can be as subtle as a breeze, or as huge as a van or a billboard or a brick or a house or whatever, But like, I mentioned that I'm an oracle school, and I'm always an oracle school. And if we look at life as an oracle, things fit together, right? Do you want to pull another card for us?
Sure.
I'd love it. Let's see. How you guys doing so far? Are you enjoying this conversation? I am.
All right. Gotta love this one. It's the major arcana of fertility, number 3. So this is new beginnings. I don't predict pregnancies because we're not allowed to do that. But I always tell people who get these cards, if you're in childbearing years and you don't want to get pregnant, just be careful. Mm-hmm. That's all I have to say is just be careful. It's a major arcana, so it isn't a small thing. It's a bigger thing. So seeds you've planted in the past or plant now will come to fruition. And just like a farmer, some of the seeds may not come to fruition, but most will. So as a major card, know that this isn't like, oh, let me just pick up the phone and call a friend, unless that's planting a seed. This is big stuff. What haven't you done? What dreams haven't you tapped into? What's that true north? Start going at it now. This is it. This is the new fertility time.
I love it. Birthing new things.
Yeah, birthing new things. I like that card a lot.
Me too. And it goes with the flying.
Yeah, that's great. And the balancing, the whole thing. It tells a story.
They tell a story. They do. And so I asked for a Pacific song, and it was from the 50s, but it was played on the 70s station. That's right. I remember. I love it.
I had tempo. Let me just share. I asked my parents for a sign, or I think it was mom. No, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a friend. And I asked, are you ready for this? I asked for obscurity, a Tom Jones song and a David Bowie song. They're not even played on the same station. I swear. I heard them on the same station back to back. I had to pull the car over. I was out of breath. Who plays Tom Jones and David Bowie together?
I love it.
I remember where I was driving to this day.
I love it. I have a funny story with my mom. My mom comes to me a lot. She helps me in interior design so much. And she comes to me through candlelight. And she came to me 6 weeks. This is the crazy thing. Okay. I can't make this up. 6 weeks after my mom passed away, my best friend from birth, her mom and my mom shared a room in the hospital together, was getting married. Okay. My parents would have been there. It was out of town, no doubt, 100,000%. My mom had just died. My dad was brokenhearted. He was not going to go anywhere. My mom at the time had a very fancy Cadillac that was so pretty that there was only 3 in the country. One was in the and it wasn't that it was so expensive or anything. It was just so stunning, and it was relatively new. Okay, so there was only 3 of that combo in the country. One was back east, one was in my parents' garage, and one was somewhere else. Okay, we get to the hotel. The exact car is parked in front of the hotel the entire weekend.
Wow.
The license plate was different. My dad had a personalized license plate.
Mhm.
It said my CAD. Okay. The license plate was different. It was the identical car, did not move the entire time. That was one of the 4th time. My mom came to me before then, but she came to me for 30 minutes in the hotel room, and I was like a wet noodle rag. My friends were plotzing, dying, the fact that that was my parents' car and she's not there and they're not there. What the heck? Because they knew her car.
Sure.
So that was another. But one time I was driving and I was talking to my girlfriend, and I was looking for this Right Entertainment Center piece, and I had the exact measurements, and I'm driving, and my mom goes, go to Scandinavian Design right now. And I'm like 5 blocks away. I say to my girlfriend, my mom's talking to me. I got to go. I got to go to Scandinavian Designs and check it out. I run in there, find the exact right piece, buy it.
Yeah, you got to follow the vibe.
Yeah, it's so wild.
We do.
Back to back. I love it. Okay, so when you teach your students, we're 8 o'clock, but we can go over a little bit. So what is like, because I teach all different things too. So fundamental, give us 3 tips for what's important for balancing or mediumship or whatever.
Okay, want to narrow that down? Balancing mediumship. You want me to pick a topic, or?
Yeah. What do you teach? What do you like to teach about that?
I'm a former school teacher, so I actually was a teacher. So I take my teaching skills and parlay them into teaching. As long as I know a topic, I'm trained to teach. I can teach. So I will teach anything that I know. But I'm a believer when people come to me for me, that intuition is the bottom of the strength of the pyramid to build toward mediumship. I don't just teach mediumship and say, oh, come into a mediumship class. Well, I do, and I've done introduction classes where we've done some fun things, but I will not mentor or seriously teach and jump to mediumship. I need a strong foundation of intuition for my students. And then I believe if you exercise the muscle of intuition, you will automatically start opening up more to connecting to spirit. Also, with energy healings and things like that, balancing your chakras and all of that will open your senses more. When I became a Reiki master, every time I didn't do it in a class, I was mentored one-on-one by a person in Manhattan. And every single time, I was already a working medium, I would leave her sessions. I'd go out of her apartment building, head toward Grand Central Station, walking, and weird things would happen. People with T-shirts with my mother, my dad's name, my friend's name. Like I had just heightened and started coming to me. So I really believe that if you're in that right state, people can start grabbing more. So I would say that kind of stuff. The foundation to me is everything. Strong foundation, you've got it made.
I agree completely. If you don't listen to your intuition, how can you know that you're hearing the other things or putting the 2 things together? Like, oh, that's a Cleton, that's a message. Like the T-shirt with your dad's name on it. That's letting him know, he's right there, right? Yeah. Right? So it's like, I agree with your intuition. So, so important. And you can test yourself, give your intuition a test, right? You can say, you can predict what's coming on the radio, since we're talking about radio. Or, I don't know. There's so many ways to listen to your intuition.
You could put, I wrote it, I put it in my book because this is one of the things I train with. You could take a card or you could take anything and put it in an envelope or under a piece of paper, breathe and just write down what comes into your head, everything you think, feel, see, or hear. And the weirdest things are the best. If in fact you find yourself threading a needle, like you see beach ball, and then you're like vacation sand, that may be your left brain. Sometimes it's not. So again, let the crazy stuff come in, but then you take it out and you look at it. But sometimes you'll think you're wrong when you're absolutely right, because maybe you just drew a shape, but you got the right shape, but you expected more from yourself. So I always tell people, don't be hard on yourself.
No, there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. But that's a great technique.
Practice. Seriously.
You froze a little bit. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Practice. So, where can people find you?
Well, with a name like mine, Carla Blaha, as we just discussed, pretty much not hard to find, right? So, TikTok, I'm Keep Vibing with Carla or Carla Blaha Medium. Instagram, Facebook, my website is my name, carlablaha.com. And my book's on Amazon, and you type in the name. There's not that many Carla Blahas in the world. And no, I didn't make the name up. I married it. People always want to know, is that like a stage name? I'm like, no.
It works for what you do too.
It does. But like we talked about, I've spent my life having people just laugh in my face when I tell them what my name is. I'm okay with it. I'm used to it.
Yeah, totally. So if I could, one time I'd love to we'll have to maybe do something, do something together.
Sure, I love that.
On like a Zoom class or workshop or 2 hours or something like that. And so I guess I want to know because it's so hard to describe, if people want to find a medium like you or me, what do they usually get out of it? What do you think? Can you put it into words? Because I'll try after you.
You mean once they've done a session or when they're looking for a medium?
Either one. Both.
Well, I think.
Why do people want mediums?
I think they feel the need, and I understand that, to know that there's something more. Because even the agnostics of the world, and once you experience, or an atheist, you experience, and it's not about religion, it's about belief in there's something else. And we are energy, right? We can see energy. We can't see the energy between our hands, but it's here. Yep. So I think when you experience a loss, you want to feel that they're still around and they're okay and they see you. And that can be done with validation. It can.
Absolutely.
It simply just can. I do feel, though, that this frame of mind that someone goes into a reading with is a game changer, deal breaker. So if they go in closed off or have to hear the code word, that's a popular one. And I love if I get a code word, but don't ask me, because I'll buckle in 2 seconds and say, I don't know what it is. And I can't. So I think not to have a low bar at all, but to be realistic and open and say, I'm going to get what I need, not necessarily what I want, but hopefully
exactly. Or over deliver. I think I over deliver a lot on certain things, but you're right. It was funny. I was doing a reading and the woman said, well, could you tell me what my nickname is? However, tell me what my nickname is. Like, I don't know what your nickname is, but I'm channeling a woman and she's telling, and it's your mother. And I already gave facts that she was one of 3 and the mother had 3 girls. And I'm talking to one of them and yes, and the ages and everything. And I said, so I don't know your name, your nickname, but I'm talking to your mom and she's telling me her name's Carol. Does that make sense? She goes, yes. Oh my God, that's my mom. Her name's Carol. So it's like, do you want to know if I'm talking to your mom or would you rather know your nickname? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to make her happy, though, because
there's always
sometimes you cannot. I mean, I've had experiences where I'm shocked. They're few and far between, that you could offer names, dates, serial numbers, and if you don't get the code word, I had one woman furious at me because I didn't get her nickname. She got up, and the minute she finished the session, she was crying. Everything was great, but when she stood up, her face changed. And she says, well, I want to know the nickname. I told my mother when her attitude, everything changed.
Wow.
I want to know when I was driving here, the nickname. And I go, you were crying the whole reading. I don't know the nickname. And then she calmed her down and she goes, all right, I swear. She goes, all right, then what was the code word? I said, code word, nickname, these are the same things. I said, I don't have it. And I mustered up enough strength. I'm not a hugger. I hugged her goodbye. I said, I hope this helps you at some point. But the minute she stood up, she lost it. I felt so bad for her.
Because, I ask my clients to not think about their loved ones that they want to connect with before.
Right. No, right.
They hang out with me way too much. It's awkward, and it's just like too much. So I ask my clients not to do that. And whoever they're thinking of may or may not come through. If I haven't got who they want to talk to, I'm very accurate with getting things like that. Then I'll call them in. If they're available and they have the energy and the strength, because we have to raise our vibration, I believe, and they have to lower theirs to meet us.
Mm-hmm.
So if they don't, then it's not a hit. But what's interesting is with the with alcohol and addiction and stuff, when I get certain symptoms or whatever, and then I recognize what it is, and I say, oh, that's interesting, and then I'm told or whatever, all my senses go. I can't get a clear message until we identify the elephant in the room. When I say, oh, I'm so sorry, but is it true because your dad's saying he was an alcoholic and I could taste the alcohol? Well, that makes sense. They say, yeah. Then the father will start talking like amazing.
Interesting.
But otherwise, what I found, until we clear the shame, they won't come through as strong, whether it's from an accidental OD or, other ways in their life, or, perhaps then we clear it and then they'll just come right through. That's what I noticed.
Interesting.
Yeah. Isn't it?
Yeah. Everybody has a little bit of their own thing,
Totally. But we're all connected to source. Okay.
It's true.
And there's so many roads to God. We're all connected to source, higher power, source, whatever you want to call it. We're all connected. We're all souls having a human experience, doing the best we can. And we have to continue as a fellow light worker to raise the vibration, right? And to support everyone's highest good, to get on their path, because it's like, for me, not meditating is like not brushing my teeth or going potty in a day. I could not do it. Right?
That's good. I'm not as good at that. I can visualize and I'll clear, but I don't meditate every day. I've never been a good meditator.
Yeah, there is no good or bad, even if it's 3 minutes. Even if it's 3 minutes or you do a guided walk.
I can do that.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be sit in the closet for an hour oming. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not
in the closet in the dark and you're like, oh, and you can't think of another thought. That's not meditating.
I'm not good at that. No, that's why I say visualize. I'm really good at visualization and clearing.
Yeah, me too. But just taking a breath for 10 seconds is a meditation,
Sure.
So I invite everyone to think about how you connect to yourself. How do you tap into your intuition, and how do you meditate or whatever works for you? And know that, from one East Coast medium to the West Coast medium, we know that your loved ones are always around, okay, whether you think so or not. And if you'd like to book a session with Carla, her info's in the show notes. And she said, Carla Blaha, and you know where to find me, Lisa Silverman, Psychic Medium, spiritsaretalking.com. And I do pets. Are you a pet intuitive?
Yeah, I can bring through pets like people. I don't advertise as that because I want to bring through people, but I bring through pets just like people. As long as they're mammals, it's much easier for me.
Yeah, I love it. This has been a great conversation. We're going to have to do this again. You want to do it again?
Thank you. I'd love to. Yes, absolutely.
We'll do it again. Maybe we'll make it, an every couple months thing.
Sounds good.
So stay on with me in the back. But everyone else, thank you so much for being with us. I know you could be anywhere in the world. You chose to spend your time with us and hear two different mediums talking about our different techniques. And I wanted to say, because I didn't get my point across about why people look for mediums, is to find, like you said, reassurance, validation that their loved ones are there. Trust me, they are. The other thing that my clients feel is a sense of connection and relief and release.
Mm.
And there's so many questions that get answered in a session, and so much evidence from the teacup to the glue ring to the cat to they're with a dog, that you have to know that love never dies. It just really changes form. So with that, everyone, thank you all so very much. Hope you have a blessed night. And whenever you listen to this, it'll be the right time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carla, for being with me.
You're welcome.
Stay on with
The
me.
truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.